Hello, Rumble. Hello, YouTube. Hello, everyone who's interested in anything at all that this is. First of all, I want to. Okay, there we go. It should be working now. Okay. I first want to thank Travis for letting me stream onto the main YouTube channel. This is obviously a privilege and an honor, to have the ability to speak to so many people out there. That is always something a little nerve wracking, but also a lot of fun. This live stream, I usually prepare a lot more for these live streams, but I just had a really busy week and it was just recently my birthday. So I thought we'll do something fun. What we're going to do is we're just going to react basically or look at and I'll discuss my opinions. You'll get to know me a little bit as I go over Jordan Peterson's recent video and some other podcasts I showed up in my recommended feed that I held back from watching. I did it for you guys, the viewers. Um, and we'll kind of go over it and see if anyone wants to jump on and talk to me. Anyone thinks that I make a stupid case, you can try and argue with me. This is always open, and I'll provide the link throughout the whole show. For those who don't know who I am, and maybe I should have started with that, I'm Dandan. Of course, that is who I am, as Michaela said. Hi, Dandan. Yes, I'm Dandan, and I have been a part of the Pangburn Universe now. You might have caught my show on Rumble. Me, Thomas, Tart, Masha, John, we all do a Royal Rumble on Rumble. And I think we aired our first show on this channel as well, which is always fun. But you guys should check it out. It talks about politics, philosophy, everything that this entire space is about. The things we care about are in that show, and that's every Sunday at 8 o'clock. My show is on Tuesdays at 8 o'clock Eastern time. For you in California or British Columbia, it's 5 o'clock, the lesser time zone. And you should check that out too. The main goal of like all these shows really is just to have a good discussion, a good faith discussion about the issues in a way that's not like someone trying to debate bro the other person, really just trying to explore these topics while being fun, lighthearted, because no one wants to watch some still content. So for today, I thought the videos that I'm choosing are two specific videos. A while back, I think it was almost a year ago at this point, maybe, I can't even tell. Time moves in such wobbly wibbly ways. If you watch Doctor Who, you know what I'm talking about. Where Jordan Peterson had this whole thing with the College of Ontario, who was wanting to suspend his license if he doesn't comply with a specific, like, quote unquote retraining, which is just like protocol for, hey, you're fucking up. There's some things that the same universities that accredited you and the same institutions that give you your ability to practice as a clinician in Ontario are telling you that there are some things they don't like to see. So I thought we'll react to that video. The other video I'm going to talk about is apparently there's like this podcast called Valuetainment. I think David Pakman's been on this podcast, Neil deGrasse Tyson's been on this podcast, and now Cenk Uyghur's on this podcast. And just to come clean, even though everyone considers me a lefty, I really hate the TYT. I've never liked the Young Turks. I've never liked Cenk. I've never liked Anna. I find them like obnoxiously filled with hubris and arrogance. So all of those people I want like nothing to do with. I don't like them. And I think they have a very crooked way by which they even understand or view politics. And that's really all I have for tonight. But like always, this is a call-in show, so everyone can like call in and tell me I'm full of shit and argue with me, which is excitingly fun. I see Neil's in the chat, Michaela. Anyone who's in the chat, just jump on. It should be fine. It should be great. For some reason, I'm seeing that the Rumble connection has stopped working, which is interesting. This connection was disconnected and weren't able to stream to that destination, which is weird because it was working a second ago. I don't know what to do about that right now. Technical problems, of course. I don't want to start and restart the stream. I got 20 people watching on YouTube. I'm just gonna rock this. I'm just gonna pretend I didn't even notice that was happening. But and if you want me to watch specific things, just let me know, and I'll go ahead. That was a water bottle, and I'll pull it up and we'll look at it. What has been happening to Anna? Never a big fan. At least seemed to hold reasonable position, but Anna been following Dave Rubin's journey or what? No, that's a good question. Is Anna following Dave Rubin's pathway? I don't think so. For me, Dave Rubin is like an intellectual amoeba, right? Like a jellyfish. Whatever the current moves, he's just like a doughy-eyed, barely sentient being, just being moved by the tides of wherever money takes him. But I think Anna, like a lot of people, doesn't understand the gender sex distinction and gets really offended by the fact that, in some medical communities, they want to call it birthing people as opposed to birthing or such to women or mothers in a way. And that really frustrates her. And I can understand that frustration, but I think we have to be very clear about like what the difference between a jargon, words that are to be used in like an academic setting versus words that we use when we talk about each other or when we talk about ourselves. Um, and that can happen, Neil, but I don't think she's going the Dave Rubin route. I'll be very surprised if she goes the Dave Rubin route. Right? That's a bit much. The Dave Rubin route, ugh, that's a pretty gross route to go down. I mean, what do you think? You think she's going down the Dave Rubin pipeline? I don't think she's going down. That's a crazy pipeline to go down. The Dave Rubin pipeline. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Neil. Great point. I appreciate that. Well, of course, everyone, make sure you like, subscribe, like it right now because I'm going to get to the whatever. I'm rambling at this point. But here, so let's bring this into the scene. This is the video I'm going to be talking about right now. Jordan Peterson, so you want to take my license? Let's see what this horse shit is about.
I don't want this precisely to be about me because that's just annoying. I want to shed light on the fact that this is on my belief that this is a universal problem of public concern in Canada and elsewhere. And I can do that because the worst thing the college can do to me is, well, the worst thing they can do is suspend my license and make a public statement that because of my refusal to comply with their dictates, I'm no longer acceptable as a licensed clinical psychologist. And I don't want them to do that because I believe that I earned my license and am also.
I mean, yeah, sure. I believe also that you don't want them to do that because you believe you earned your license. I'm not really following what he's trying to get at here so far.
A good advocate on the clinical front. I don't want to be in a position where faceless bureaucrats motivated by a political agenda and whatever envy and resentment they carry in their dark and nasty little hearts have the opportunity to strip me of something that I spent a decade of extremely hard work earning. But if they do strip it from me, well, first of all, that's not going to redound to their credit. Second,
so can we just dispel this idea that the College of Ontario are a bunch of faceless, nameless people, right? Like this is a very simple, like we can go right now. We should do it, right? College of Psychiatrists of Ontario, right? These are not nameless people. These are people who are put into these positions of power, right? What are they called? The college COP, CPO. I don't remember exactly which ones, but these are not nameless people. Let's just make it very clear. These are people who are in public eye. You can go on the website and see who they are. The memos that he openly published about a year ago had every single psychologist cited who made the statements they did. None of this is nameless and none of this is faceless. So I find him saying that just, obviously this is, again, more horseshit from him. I feel like he really fell down after he now got bought by Ben Shapiro. But
I can probably get licensed in a jurisdiction like Florida with a bit of work if I wanted to.
That'd be satisfying.
Yeah,
Who wants to be part of this creepy little club of psychologists that are just telling people lies anyway?
Talk about an echo chamber when your own daughter is interviewing you. Ooh, you're going to get some hard-hitting questions. Can we also comment on the fact that I don't know why he has like the Apple earbuds? Couldn't he get better earbuds or something? Anyhow, that's beyond the point. It's interesting that they're talking about maybe I can go get licensed in Florida. Let's just put this in perspective. Florida has not the best healthcare in the United States. It just doesn't. So why would you want to get licensed in Florida of all places, right? The places like New York, places like Ontario, places like California, places in in Europe, in Paris, like these areas have much better healthcare because of an educated population that makes sure that the regulations are set so we don't have quack jobs, giving people opinions. If we try to remember what it was that the College of Ontario had an issue with, it was precisely that, first of all, specific statements that were against current scientific consensus. So, for example, one thing that Jordan Peterson said on the Joe Rogan podcast was that one cannot measure climate, right? And what does that mean? If a scientist says that you can't measure climate, then you're saying climate is not even a thing that can be measured or a thing that is even real. So for him to say that climate isn't real or that climate isn't measured, it is a serious problem in and of itself. But does that affect his practice? I'm not really sure 100%. No, I'm not really sure about that. But what does affect his practice is to say things like the medical care that Elliot Page received was criminal, right? That is a problem as a clinician. When he told people to go kill themselves on Twitter, that is a problem. For him to deny the gender sex distinction is a problem. And for him to bring up Florida is quite funny because currently Florida and the college board are in a fight, in a circuffle, in some type of contention over the fact that because of Florida's specific laws where you can't mention LGBT Q references and you can't talk about gender identity and transness as distinct from sex, you can't properly teach a college level psychology course. So for him to deny the notions that his peers make, the scientific realities that they talk about, and then go to Florida where the state is intervening in education, where the state is intervening on what books educators find good to teach while claiming them to be ideological, is just, it's the height of hypocrisy. It's the height of doublespeak. It's pretty ridiculous.
If the entire profession is being forced to not tell their clients the truth, then maybe you should drop that club.
It's worse than that. It's worse than that, Michaela.
It's worse than that, guys.
The bodies that govern the training programs for clinical psychologists in Canada, the Canadian Psychological Association, has increasingly moved to make it mandatory for universities that offer clinical psychology training to do that under the rubric of social justice or face the suspension of the accreditation of their programs. And that's also happening in medicine. Everyone
under the guise of social justice. Are we taking this seriously? Is that really what is written there? Right? I mean, he just says this stuff, so we have to double check. Do I double check this right now? I guess I have to double check this right now. If I got to do my due diligence on this stream, I gotta check this right now. Let's see. What did this fucker exactly say?
To do that under the rubric of Canada, the Canadian Psychological Association has increasingly moved to make it mandatory for universities that offer clinical psychology training to do that under the rubric of social justice or face the suspension of the accreditation of their programs.
Yeah, he might be talking about like diversity, inclusion, and equity, which are specific initiatives that states have about like the universities, which is basically to make sure that, I don't know, let's say you are diversity, let's say you're Jewish, or let's say you're a Muslim, or let's say you're a Sikh, and you want psychologists should be aware of those cultural differences and how those might manifest in diagnostic criteria. Or if someone is gay or trans, for example, just because someone is trans doesn't mean they're disabled, or just doesn't mean they have a disease or a disorder. You can be trans without having gender dysphoria. I mean, I don't know if that's what he's talking about. I'm really not sure, but we'll see.
And that's also happening in medicine. Everyone listening, you bloody well better listen to this, people, because we're entering a situation where the universities themselves are required to ensure that your physicians and your psychologists are of a particular political stripe, which essentially means radically left, not just left, but radically left, like social justice, full woke, critical racist theory, oppressive, patriarchal narrative, feminist, left wing.
He just threw all of the buzzwords he possibly could in a matter of like 10 seconds. And it's funny that critical race theory is coming back to the forefront. They call it critical racist theory. I promise you, I bet my left testicle, which is my favorite testicle, by the way, I promise my left testicle that he has not read a single critical race theory textbook, hasn't taken the time to actually contend with the information. He probably watched some James Lindsay lecture or listened to Peter Boghossian on the topic, which I used to like back in the day, actually, and has just completely like denounced it as some woke leftist ideology. And for a community like the Writer of the Daily Wire, who consistently talk about the issue of like big corporations, I mean, he's working for the Daily Wire. This is one of the, if not the biggest online media infrastructure for conservative news. So yeah, Neil, that's a good point, Neil. That's a really good point. Yes. Do you guys remember a long time ago, and I'm actually making a video about this on my channel, which should be in the description. It should be up probably next week. But I have found a ridiculous similarity between the early, like when we just had like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and Daniel Dennett and Christopher Hitchens all fucking berate like religious Republicards from like when Bush was president or whatever it might be. And there was an interview between Richard Dawkins and Wendy Wright. And I was watching that on a live stream the other day. And in that interview, Wendy Wright tells Richard Dawkins this: well, all the evolutionists are kind of like a dogmatic religion, new evolutionist religions in academia that are, just trying to push some sort of leftist or communist agenda to take God out of the schools or God out of our country. And it's exactly that same rhetoric that now these new reactionaries like Peterson and Boghossian and Lindsay and Ben Shapiro and Stephen Crowder and Candace Owens and his daughter and whatever, I can name a trillions of these grifters, are calling the academia a new type of religion because it disagrees with like their fundamental realities or the things that they believe is true. Hugo Main or HGU Main. LOL, wokeism is such a cult. It's literal religion replacement. Okay, HGU Main, explain to me what wokeism is. I'll wait for you to actually talk about what wokeism is. Kamir, yeah, you're 100% right, yeah. God was never a part until McCarthy won the culture war and rewrote history. Exactly what is happening again. What do you mean exactly what's happening again? In regards to what? Because it is true that it wasn't until the 1950s that in God we trust was on the money, or even under God was added into the Constitution. And then this idea that the United States was founded on religious, unfounded on the Bible, on religion, on Christianity. When you look at throughout history, there were a few like great reawakenings, which were periods throughout history where America regrew its religiosity and became more of a religious nation. And the first one, in their statements and in their writings, specifically said that that America was too secular, that it wasn't founded on godly principles, and it's their job to bring God into the country. So that just automatically discredits that. So to clarify, Jeremy, he did not lose his license. He's in the process of losing his license. A while back, I think it was about a year ago, JP got a notice from the College of Ontario telling him that if he doesn't go and take media sensitivity training, he would lose his license for not complying with the guidelines of the CPO, College of Ontario, I think it's CPO, yeah. And now he's talking about that again because he likes to fearmonger the big state while also loving the big state. So you're clarifying here. Another culture happening. More people, especially the right, trying to rewrite history to be more biblical, more religious, and more undeniable foundations. It feels like McCarthy era all over again, for what I know of that era. Yeah, that's about right. I would agree with you that there is another type of. Do you guys know what the lost cause ideology was that was brought in by Woodrow Wilson after the failure of Reconstruction? Do you guys want me to talk about that, or should we get back into the video? Which one do you guys want me to do? Should I go ahead and talk about lost cause revisionism and how it relates to this culture war stuff and revisionism, or should I continue on to Peterson? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Combined also the trans panic, just being like they say, panic, gay panic. Yes, correct. So if you look back into the 80s, I actually coined this in a debate I had with someone as the gay fallacy, where they would people look at they say, I was having a conversation about trans issues and transness, and in the conversation I said, well, just because trans people are disproportionately more likely to have depression or suicidality doesn't mean it's because they are trans, because the same was true for homosexuals in the 80s. But as homosexuality got more accepted into society, and as homosexuals were less discriminated against, those rates of suicidality and depression dropped. So yeah, very similar to what's happening there. Yeah, okay, I'll give a lost cause revisionism a little bit of history about that. So lost cause revisionism. After the Civil War, there was an effort in the United States for what is called Reconstruction, which was a how do we reconstruct the country after such a divide, where some states went into war with other states over slavery because it was about slavery. There was a serious debates in Congress happening. Some very much more far-leaning left people said, no, the South has to be punished. They have to have reparations. They need to be stripped of their power. Anyone who worked there, we have to come in and make sure their elections are help them do their elections, yada yada. And other people were arguing against something else. And with Lincoln's assassination, his vice president, which he brought in to help unify the country, took power. And this vice president, someone just jumped into the chat. I got to mute them for a second. And this vice president, I forgot exactly their name. Doesn't matter. I was a pro-South sympathizer who stonewalled Reconstruction. And with that stonewalling, specific amendments against slavery were turned away, and the black codes were able to happen, and Jim Crow were able to happen. Go back another 20, 30 years, Woodrow Wilson, who became our president around he was there for World War I, brought into the forefront what was called lost cause ideology, which was a way to rewrite history and framing the Civil War, not about slavery, but about states' rights, where really the Civil War wasn't about the institution of slavery, it was about states' rights, which was entirely ahistorical. And that's really what it is anymore. We have a beef jerky in the chat. Who are you, beef jerky? What's up? I'm the one who can hear you right now. You want to come in and talk about something? You're muted. Is there anything you want to speak to me about? Well, they're not responding to me, so I can't tell. Maybe they're just jumping in to listen. Neil Merchant, random question. How big is the Pangburn team? Well, I can't answer exactly on how big the Pangburn team is for the live events because I'm not doing live events. But yes, there are going to be more live events in the future. There's actually one. Let me pull up the advertisement for that and post it in the chat. Exactly, Tart. States' rights for what? There is a Pangburn event with Lawrence Krauss coming up in Vancouver soon, and tickets are actually on sale right now. So let me try to put that in the chat for everyone so you guys could find that. Where's the link? There it is. So everyone who is interested can go ahead and find this link. jump to and get tickets for this event. And there's going to be more events. I know the Sousa and Cosmic Skeptic might be coming into New York. There's even some rumors about, other political issues. On my show, actually, on September 5th, I'm having Cornel West come on to do an interview for his presidency. So things are developing, things are moving, the team is growing. And for anyone who's interested on helping out and being more in the loop, come join the Discord. The Discord channel is where you're going to get all the information that you're looking for. I'll put the link. I'll put that link as well in the chat. Should be a banner, Dandan. I could do that as well. That'd be a good idea. I mean, Perry, you can always jump in and do it for me. You have the power. Oh, Jeremy M asking me. Oh, I'm getting all these questions. Wow, I feel like it's it's a lot. Okay, that's fine. I'll answer all of them though. Why not? Jeremy, off topic. But off topic. But were you once religious? If so, why did you deconstruct my religiosity? Jeremy, I promise you I'll answer this question. But let me just go back and do a little bit more. Okay, I'll answer this question. Okay, it is a bit long. Yes, I was religious at a certain point of my life. I actually grew up in Israel, and I immigrated to the United States when I was 10 years old. And in that migration process, it was very important for my family that we don't lose our cultural and heritage. And by doing so, my parents and put me into Hebrew school. Even though I was completely fluent in Hebrew, read, write, I still read and write completely in Hebrew. I talk Hebrew all day, every day. This is my mother tongue. I'm very proficient in it. They didn't want me to lose my cultural aspect of it. But within our synagogue, there was an organization that was adjacent to Chabad called JEP. For those who know what Chabad is like missionaries, but just for Jews. They don't go out and proselyte non-Jews to convert to Judaism. They look for secular Jews to try to make them more religious. And within that adjacent program, JEP, they they offered my parents basically, hey, we can send your kids to sleepaway camp for free because they had people donate. And my brother and I went to that sleepaway camp for free. And in that sleepaway camp, first of all, I just have to say it was amazing. And my experiences there were really good. I made really good friends. I learned tons of life skills, from music to drawing to art to sports. I think my love of philosophy came from literally learning theology every day at that camp. But at the same time, I was also indoctrinated. And within that indoctrinative process, I grew more and more religious. I put on a yarmulke, I put on tzitzis, I put on tefillin every day. And I kind of did this, I think I was around 14 to around 20. So 7 years, 8 years, I was very, very religious. But something happened at around age 19. I, very much similar to Matt Dillahunty's story, at that same summer camp, we had magicians come in and we had a workshop on magic. And I was obsessed with it. I was obsessed with doing magic tricks. It was just one of my favorite things to be able to wow someone, especially like wow adults or wow my peers. And I've thought that that magic at a certain point was like almost like a sport where you get better and better and better. And like the best magicians are the best, shufflers or sleight of handers. And that's not the case. I kind of learned it was more performance based and fell out of love with it because I'm not really interested in performing. I'm interested in learning more or developing a craft. But when I was 19, there was this show on the TLC channel on television called, what was it called again? Whatever. It was a lady called Teresa Caputo who like spoke with dead people, something like that. You come to them, you give them a necklace. They're like, habazamaza, shibazunumuzu, and they're like, your husband from the afar is telling you some stories. And at that moment, I was studying with tons of rabbis, and I was like, this is horse shit. No one can talk to dead people. So I kind of decided to go ahead and ask one of my rabbis what they think about it. And what was their answer? Their answer was, well, there are good ways to connect with Hashem, which is God in Hebrew, and bad ways, evil way of connecting with the Holy Spirit or whatever it might be. And at that moment, a bell rung off in my head. And I thought to myself, well, fuck. I know this is bullshit. I know this is cold reading. I've researched how this is done. If my rabbi is falling for it, what else are they falling for? And I really began a serious exploration into philosophy and history and science. And originally, I kind of addressed the problem with, well, which religion is true? Is it Christianity? Is it Islam? Is it Hinduism? Is it Buddhism? What? And going through all these religions, I ended up stumbling across a James Randi documentary that basically talked about astrology and all these different woo characters. And within that, I think he mentioned Richard Dawkins. So I looked up Richard Dawkins, and he offered me a solution that I wasn't creative enough to think of myself, which was, well, maybe God doesn't exist. And as soon as that landed, and as soon as that I thought about that, it kind of became much more clear of what's going on. Religions are just like all these other polytheistic religions I didn't care about. And I began exploring the topic, and that's kind of how I got deconstructed from my religion, if that helps you, Jeremy. So, yeah. Hopefully you guys like that question, that answer. So, Kamir Aurelia, Dandan question mark. Yes, what's your question to me, brother? Any questions? No questions? Okay. I guess I'm going to move back to the video at hand. Props, Jeremy. No problem. I always share. I'm open to sharing. Okay. Let's get back to JP talking about nonsense, shall we?
Or the institution itself will not be allowed to train physicians or psychologists. And I know that sounds like a conspiracy theory, and well, go look it up for yourself and see if it's true, because it's true right down to the last word. And so if you Canadians, you think you're going to be served well by craven political ideologues who are primarily selected to be physicians on the basis of their political purity, you've got a bloody another thing coming. That didn't work out so well in Eastern Europe. Let me tell you, it's not going to work out very well for us either. And so part of the reason I'm willing to make this battle public is to try to alert people to the fact that we're a hell of a lot farther down this road than we think. You know, I went through Eastern Europe for 4 months this spring, talking to people there.
He has a tendency of priming his audience with fear, and his fear just is really just like 1980s propaganda, Soviet communist socialists. In the United States, we are very far away from socialism. We're much closer to fascism than we are to socialism or communism. And I think that he once again, in the vein of what Noam Chomsky talks about, he's just being anti-political. He doesn't like the fact that society is organized against what they see his opinions as corrosive and problematic. I know people think problematic is like some sort of buzzword. No, it's just being a problem in the way they manifest themselves in society. But he's priming us with these notions of communism and socialism to make us think that Big Brother is out there trying to get him. I don't know if we're recognizing that Jordan Peterson is a very, very paranoid man. He's unbelievably paranoid now. He consistently thinks people are after him. He consistently thinks that there is an entire cabal out there of like leftist ideologue, postmodern neo-Marxist coming at him from Hollywood and the institutions, corrupting the youth of society. And for those who are historically a little more educated, you know what that sounds like. That sounds like cultural Bolshevism. That's also, I think, that a video that I'm working on, by the way. I'm working on a video specifically responding to Jordan Peterson's conservative manifesto. But I'll keep that a teaser. So for those who want to find that, in the link, my channel, subscribe to it. Of course, subscribe to Pangburn, like, subscribe, all that bullshit. I don't really care enough about to say that.
Privilege of meeting, 30 or 40 people in each country who were political or cultural leaders across the political spectrum, including leftists who'd been mobbed like mad by their own compatriots. And every single one of the people I talked to, virtually without exception in Eastern Europe, said something like, do you know what happened here between the end of the Second World War in 1989 when we were dominated by the communists? Do you know how awful it was here? That was particularly true in Albania. Do you know you people in the West are walking down exactly the same road? What the hell's wrong with you? Don't you notice? And this included the socialists in those.
I'll tell you what's going on here. I'll tell you exactly what's going on here. Capitalism and the way in which we are structured our markets is failing us. We are seeing an environment where our political leaders we can predict if they're getting elected by how much money they're spending on advertisement, right? We're seeing an economy that's not stimulated by trying to offer job programs or subsidies for small businesses, but rather creating supply side economics where the money is being distributed to the higher echelons and billionaires. That's what we're seeing. And right now, we're placed in a position where we're being gerrymandered, where the voter disenfranchisement is the biggest problem on the ballot. I mean, we saw what Trump is literally having 4 indictments against him. I think 3 of them exactly for him trying to fuck with the election. So that's what's happening. People are trying to do whatever they can, and sometimes it might seem to you like it's authoritarianism. But there's a difference between authoritarianism and the actions of a functioning democracy. And we have to understand the difference here. He doesn't, because he's on the losing end of it. He's on the losing end of science. He's a reactionary. He is someone who is simply reacting to the times changing rather than being able to deal with it.
Eastern European countries, who remember the tender mercies of the radical leftists and the fact that, 1 out of 3 people in most of those countries, even if they were within your own family, were government informers. And where the joke was, we pretend to work and they pretend to pay us, and where people spent hours in bread lines and fought over terrible little rat hole apartments as they...
Again, it's a lot more fear mongering over and over and over again. But I have someone in the chat with me, Unworthy Servant. What's up? Do you want to talk about something? I can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, they just turned their camera off. You don't have to have your camera on. You can talk to me if you want. Check 1, 2. Can you hear me or not? For those who don't know, if you want to have a conversation with me, you can join this link, and I'll try to bring you on. We can talk about something. And if you're just going to be idling here with like your mic on and noise, I'm going to have to kick you out of the room. If you just mute yourself and you can message me or whatever it is, I can bring you on. Just let me know that you want to talk. You can join the link, and that's fine. So Unworthy, do you want to join the chat or not? Are you interested in having a conversation, or you just popped in to see what this was about? Also, you, Beef Jerky, let me know what's going on.
They were quasi-starving to death, unable to ever tell the truth or speak.
Yeah, that's not good.
Oh, what riveting commentary, whatever her name is, the new Fox News Petersonite child. Wow, clap for you. That's not good. Talk about echo chambers. God, these people disgust me.
No, no, and that's why you're in Florida.
I know. Florida is great.
Are you in Florida because it's great, or are you in Florida because the Republican machine is paying you and you're working for the Daily Wire? That's why you're in Florida. Not because you're working a low-end median job and you can barely afford health care and you want good education for your children. That's not the reason why you're in Florida. The reason why you're in Florida, Michaela Peterson, is because you're being paid by the Daily Wire and you are a stooge for the Republican establishment. That's why you're there. Why are blue cities in such disarray? Okay. What disarray do you think blue cities are in? Are you talking about what specifically? I mean, I live in New York. I'm literally 5 minutes away from the city. I was in the city the other day. I didn't think it was in disarray. Right? Cities are consistently under construction, but what are you speaking about when you're saying they're disarray? Or are you just eating some sort of talking points or whatever it might be? Please if you're going to ask me a question, try to keep it a bit more detailed. Explain to me what you actually mean. Look at San Francisco, LOL. Okay, San Francisco. Let's ask, why is San Francisco in such disarray? Because homeless people don't have any ability to maintain themselves outside of California. Is very homeless friendly. It's a warm city. It's a warm state. So they end up going there. And the question is, what do you do then with homeless people? Do you put them in jails? Do you push them off the street? Do you give them a criminal record where now they have a harder time getting a job? What do you actually do to make sure that homeless people are able to move on and rehabilitate? Other states like Texas and other states in the Bible are actually have said they have literally bused immigrants to California and bused homeless people to California. This is why it looks the way it is. But these states, instead of just giving them the middle finger and telling them to fuck off, are trying to help them. Newsom had a 10-year plan. What happened to that? I don't know enough about Newsom to tell you. Do you want to maybe jump on and talk to me? That was 12 years ago. Well, the plan didn't work out. I don't know what to tell you. Issues aren't as simple as like the government had a plan, right? It's like saying, oh, why is there inflation globally? Didn't Biden have a plan? Or the question might be, didn't Trump have a plan regarding Operation Warp Speed? Why did all these other countries in the middle of the world not get vaccines and COVID kept going? So HGUL main, jump onto the chat. The link is there. I'll talk with you. You don't have to do it over text. It's much better face to face, or avatar to my face. Either way is fine.
Weird. People here are weird, but it's good weird. It's free weird.
Yeah.
It's not stifled.
Yeah,
like
well, so
Toronto.
I wonder what she would say. I wonder what she would say if like she was in New York and she was like, oh, people are weird here, but like, good weird, free weird. And she's talking about people in a pride parade just expressing themselves however they want. Males wearing makeup with wigs and high heels, and females dressed as men, right? Would she say that is a good weird? Probably not, because she's talking about Florida man weird, right? Like eating your face with bath salts weird.
Right now, I hate it.
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Like, I don't know how you felt going back there, and I don't know how. I've got lots of friends in Toronto, but it is not the same Toronto as it was in 2015 or 2016. You go there, it's kind of like California. You can feel the weight of silence in that place.
Yeah, well, your mom and I have been back here for a month. We're pretty worried about coming back because we've faced a fair bit of resistance in our neighborhood. Like, I'm probably more unpopular in some sense in Toronto, and more particularly in my neighborhood, than I am anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
And so it was somewhat worrisome to come back to Toronto.
It's very worrisome.
My son moved out of our neighborhood in part because it was uncomfortable for him to be there, even though that's where he grew up, thanks to the machinations of certain neighbors. It's been hard on your mom too, because I come downstairs, the other day when I was going through what happened in 2016, I came downstairs, I could hardly stand up. A lot of the symptoms I had over the last couple of years came back, and that's...
Maybe you should just eat meat again. Like, that was a good idea. I shouldn't, laugh at anyone's addiction problems. I apologize for that. But I do think that one of the things that makes it very frustrating about him is the fact that he's not taking advice of like the medical community, right? He's not taking the advice of his actual peers. So it's funny that he says he goes back to Toronto where he feels like people don't like him. And it's like, well, what has happened in your life? I actually had a conversation with my brother about this, and Mace, no, homeless people do not deserve to be homeless. What a fucking horrible statement that is to fucking say. What the fuck is wrong with you? Can you imagine your family died in some sort of car accident? You couldn't financially support yourself. You became homeless for like a couple of nights, ended up getting arrested from the police, getting a criminal record, and now you're homeless chronically because of that? How dare you fucking say that? That's just disgusting. That's fucking disgusting. Not disgusting because you're discounting the fact that A, they're people. There's actually human beings with feelings, love. They have children and families. And B, that their circumstance isn't just because of their own will. That is just fucking gross. Absolutely deplorable things to say. But what was I saying before that? Before Mesa's comment made me fucking triggered out of my mind. Let's rewind because it has something to do with what he's. Oh yeah, if we think of Peterson's story, for example, it's like I think Peterson broke right. You know, we have like Breaking Bad. I feel like Peterson broke right. Yes, Fred, I have watched Oppenheimer and I have watched Barbie. We can talk about those in a few. Let me make notes because I'm getting a ton of fucking requests and questions from everyone. I didn't expect such a lovely thing. So, LOL, comma no free will. Yes, people don't have free will. They have will. It's not free though. We can talk about that. And yeah, smash the like button while I take some notes. So we got Oppenheimer, Barbie. What else do we have? Um, Homeless people. Oh my god, all these topics happening tonight, live on air. Yes. So talking about I lost my train of thought again. What was I talking about, everyone? Before I lost my train of thought. Oh yes, yes. Thank you, Perry. Thank you, Perry. Perry is my man in the back, by the way. For those who don't know who Perry is, he also has his own YouTube channel. He is the Giga Chad of questions. He is the Giga Chad of like a discourse. If you want to talk to Perry, jump in the Discord. He is your bro, like number one individual. Let me put him on screen real quick in his darkness, in his epic darkness right now. You also have to see quickly Perry in his epic darkness. There you go. This is Perry. He's always in the background, lurking like Batman, doing all of the work, the graphics. He's the king of kings, and I always love him. He's one of my best friends. But now you can fuck off, Perry. There we go. All the love for Perry. But yeah, so JP, kind of like a Breaking Bad situation. Let's take this in perspective. He saw Bill C-16 jump on the scene, and of course, because Jordan Peterson is like, do you remember those old 2016 feminists and like black racist who saw racism in literally everything? Like a white girl wearing dreads was somehow literally cultural appropriation, when cultural appropriation is a systemic thing, it's not an individual thing. That's a whole other thing. Jordan Peterson is like that with communism and socialism. Like he has just read so much Dostoevsky that he's consistently like a hammer looking for Soviet nails to drill in. But in that, he went out and started speaking about it, and his fear mongering was not necessarily directed at LGBT people, but it was about other things around it. Like he was afraid of compelled speech. And as this was happening, Jordan Peterson went out and decided to voice his opinion, to say what he believes. And people didn't really have an issue as much with him saying that, it was a compelled speech, that we might go down the slippery slope, but it was about him lying about what Bill C-16 did. If we remember, Bill C-16 didn't say that that you have to say a person's preferred pronoun. It simply added gender identity as a protected class under Canadian law. And it was this protected class that basically makes it that if I harass a trans person, because let's say they are a trans woman and I run after them and go, he, you're a he, you're a dude, you're a he, you'll never be a woman, blah, blah, blah. And I keep harassing them about that. It's no longer just harassment, it's also a hate crime, right? I've been around trans people for a very long time and I've never once had someone get mad at me for misgendering them or using the wrong pronouns. Sometimes they don't even, most of the time, they don't even correct you. And if they do correct you, like, hey, could you just please try, and you just try to be nice to the human being because it really doesn't matter that much. And eventually it just kind of goes away and that just becomes how you refer to them. Your brain has a little code switch where you have plasticity in your brain and you move on. It's really not such a big deal. But he began to get backlash from his peers at the university. All of a sudden, people are like, hey, man, you're saying things are a bit weird. Why are you lumping in LGBTQ people and trans people? Why are you denying trans people and gender identity is distinct from sex. Aren't you a psychologist? Didn't you study psychology? And for those who don't know, I have a degree in psychology. Didn't you study psychology? And his response to that wasn't, you make a good point. I have to go and talk with my peers. He didn't have hubris. He instead had arrogance, where he said, no, you're totalitarian, communist, authoritarians. But while all this was happening, Jordan Peterson had his own issues. He had his own depression he was dealing with. His wife got cancer. His daughter, Michaela, that we're just listening to, was also dealing with her own autoimmune issues. And within that sphere, things started going badly. People didn't want to do research with him anymore. He became addicted to opiates. And with this, he was doing debates for Pangburn. And within this entire reality for him, it seemed that he had a Breaking Bad moment, where after he, put himself into a coma and had to deal with all of his drugs, the only people who were to accept him were the same people who accepted Kanye West when he was losing his shit and going mentally insane. It was the right-wing media establishment of the United States. And placed in that position, I don't know if I would have done better, right? Talking about, would I not take that amount of money? Would I not grift out? And maybe my grifting wouldn't even be intentional. It would just happen because absolute power corrupts absolutely. That might be what was going on. So I think Jordan Peterson broke bad. And now that he's going back to his community, it's everyone around him saying, look what happened to you, Walter White. Look what happened to you, Jordan Peterson. And Walter White's family didn't like him anymore. His community didn't like him anymore. His friends didn't like him anymore. And that is not just because he was following or believing what he was believing, but rather the path that he went down began to be corrosive, began to go against everything that was the Walter White that they all fell in love with, and that made it into academia, that became that professor. And I think that's kind of what happened to him. So, Unworthy, you're still in here. Do you still want to have a conversation with me, or are you not interested in having a conversation with me? What's going on? Okay, I'm going to have to mute you because I can't have the conversation. Perry, can you try talking to him and seeing what's going on with that human being? Yeah, I would appreciate that. No problem. Oh, I can still hear you in the background, Perry. You have to mute yourself, and then you can click on the little walkie-talkie or try to comment with them and see what's going on. No, he's in the chat. So what are you saying here, James? Lost interest in what he was saying when I checked out his assertion of the lack of serotonin is a cause for depression. It turns out there's no scientific for that whatsoever. That's correct. That's a really interesting point. So for those who don't know, there's an interesting reality to SSRIs, which is serotonin reuptake inhibitors. What they basically do, they make it that your brain doesn't basically digest the protein being used, and then there's more serotonin being used, and there's more serotonin and specific hormones in between your synapses. But let's say a person suffers from depression and you give them an SSRI. Their levels of serotonin go back to normal within a week. But what ends up happening is that their symptoms of depression don't alleviate with that serotonin level going back to normal, which lets you know that depression is not just serotonin. That's just a plain lie. Yes, this is precisely why he's in hot shit from the College of Psychiatrists of Ontario, because as a professional, you cannot go out and say that you have a specific accreditation that you don't. He's not a neuroscientist, and he's not a biologist, nor is he an evolutionary biologist. He has said all of these things live on air. That is a big problem for someone. So, which is why the college even asked him to begin with, which is why he said the college asked him to begin with to have media retraining. hey, I gotta have a little bit of media retraining. I'm fucking up here. You're not being careful with your speech. That is something I say to some of my clients. We have to be careful with our speech. Back to Jordy Peterson. Let's do this.
Really pretty frightening for me and for her to see. I had to sit down on the floor 5 or 6 times.
This sounds like PTSD.
Well, who knows, what it is. But
Well, it
I recovered fairly quickly,
Still.
which is, an indication of my return to health. So, but it's hard on your mom too, because I'm bitchy as can possibly be after going upstairs and wrestling with this material. And, we had a big conversation this week about how she should be involved, because I don't want to drag her into this. And, and she doesn't want to blame me for being entangled in it. And we don't want to stress our relationship, so I don't know how much to protect her from this and how much to share with her. I thought, well, maybe when I'm writing out my college defense, I should go to a hotel room and, grapple with it there, because I'm much more irritable, at least for some period of time after confronting all of this. Like, it's calmed down a bit now that I've got my argument, in order. I've looked through all the material. There isn't any snakes left under the carpet to bite me. And so I think I'm through the most demanding part of it, although God only knows what's...
He's in such a privileged position. He has enough money to fight these legal battles that most clinicians can't, right? This is another aspect where money really just gives you a leg up in society, gives you a leg up in the legal system, enables you to drag court cases forever and ever and ever. It's absolutely annoying, irritating. It's insane that he could do that. Oh God. But he is whining a lot, right? This is a lot of crybaby right now. Oh, woe me. Oh, they're targeting me. The postmodern neo-Marxists. Oh God. I'm being destroyed over here. My life is being taken away from me. Man, take a chill pill. Take some hubris. Calm down. You're fine. Not hubris but arrogance. You think it's arrogance as opposed to not hubris? Which one do you think it is, James? Do you think it's arrogance or do you think it's hubris? Because I think it just lacks the hubris. I don't know if he's necessarily super arrogant. He tries to at least display himself as not being super arrogant. But who knows?
Going to happen as this unfolds, because there's always the possibility I'll make a mistake while I'm defending myself too, because I could easily do that because it's so complicated. But your mom and I are on the same page in relationship to this, which is, she believes that if I just say what's happening, if I do my best to tell the truth without adornment and to try to keep my volatile temper under control, that this will turn out the way things have turned out for us in the past, which is it'll be rather dreadful in the short term, but resolve itself somewhat favorably in the medium to long run. But that's easy to say when the medium to long run hasn't made itself manifest yet.
The Bible is the root of all wisdom, inspiration, and spiritual nourishment. The hallow...
Wait, what? This is how they're doing ads now? Jordan Peterson having big Bible ads? Big Bible. Oh, who was there? I think it was Travis. You were there with me when Peterson first joined the Daily Wire. And what did I call him? Pastor Peterson? Guys, it's now Pastor Peterson. It's not just doctor, psychiatrist Jordan Peterson, which is not a psychiatrist, by the way. Most of research in personality psychology, which is a whole other thing. But Pastor Peterson is now doing his thing. JP D. Martin. JP will end up getting a big settlement. Why do you say that? Why do you think JP is going to get a big settlement? How did you arrive at that conclusion? If you want to go through the chat, I'm pretty good at responding to it, but you could also call in the link. But really excited to hear what you have to say. I just want to remind everyone that the show is live. My show, at least, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. EST. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Underneath also, there is a bunch of links to my YouTube channel where you can go and follow me as well, other than just Travis. I know Travis as a YouTube channel is the best, but mine is second best. So go with my channel. Also, come join the Discord. That really helps us, and it's the best place to come and talk to everyone. You can talk to me and all the other show hosts, and that should also be in the description below. Okay, also, I don't want to watch this ad. I don't want to give him an ad. Yeah, fuck you. Fuck your ad. Get fucked, bitch.
That's happening that no one can really get out of. And by that, I mean, we see what direction the universities are going in. So you can fight back against that.
Okay, I'm going to do what Jordan Peterson does and prime you before I go into it so I don't feel like I have to pause every time. What are they talking about when they say the universities? What in the fuck are they talking about when they're saying the universities? Jordan Peterson is, and I'm sorry for people who like Jordan Peterson and are watching this, he is perpetuating and continuing the same propaganda as Goebbels did in the 1930s in Germany. And if you think that I'm kooky and some sort of like leftist conspiracy theorist, I'm about to quickly take you what's down called the Wikipedia rabbit hole. Let's do a little bit of Wikipedia rabbit hole. And that's what we're doing right now. Everyone with me. Let's go look up Cultural Marxism. Cultural Marxism. Does everybody here know what Cultural Marxism is? This is what Cultural Marxism is. Cultural Marxism refers to a far-right anti-Semitic conspiracy theory which misrepresents the Frankfurt School as being responsible for modern progressive movements, identity politics, and political correctness. The conspiracy theory posits that there is an ongoing and intentional academic and intellectual effort to subvert Western society via a planned culture war that undermines the Christian values of traditional conservatism and seeks to replace them with culturally liberal values. This was originally in really far right, like neo-Nazi groups in the 90s. Jordan Peterson calls this postmodern neo-Marxism. You hear him talking about the Frankfurt School. You hear him talking about postmodernism as some sort of like anti-Western notion, which is not. But where did this idea come from? This idea came from the notion of cultural Bolshevism. Cultural Bolshevism, sometimes referred to as art Bolshevism or music Bolshevism or sexual Bolshevism. Keep in mind the sexual part because it is exactly not. But if we don't know, the first book burning in Nazi Germany was of the Trans and Gender Institute in Berlin. That's the first books they burnt. Was a term widely used by state-sponsored critics in Nazi to denounce secularism, modernism, progressivism, and it was related to Jewish Bolshevism. Cultural Bolshevism, when conduct whatever they're talking, you can Google all of this. But the point here is to highlight that Jordan Peterson is just a continuation of that same rhetoric, a continuation of that same conspiracy theory, where it is what's the word that I'm looking for here? Degeneration. Like society is becoming degenerate. Society is losing its Western values. This is also mirrored in like Twitter accounts that now are all over Twitter or X, while it's still twitter.com and you still tweet, but it's called X, whatever. Elon Musk needs to figure his shit out. Like, have you guys ever seen this guy on Twitter called Cultural Critic? I gotta find you guys who this guy is. Cultural Critic on Twitter. Pops up on my feed all the time, and he actually triggers me. So, but here, let me show you. Oh, also, you can follow me on Twitter. I post spicy shit all the time. Just look me up. But this is what he does. He consistently posts pictures and videos of like what has happened to Western society, how Western society has like degenerated and fell apart, while being really, really hyper fixated on like 16th century like Italy, which is the same thing Mussolini and other fascists in Italy were really, really like interested in, which is an important thing to know. HG is once again asking me a question. How bad do you hate Charlie Kirk? I mean, Charlie Kirk is a grifter who works for Turning Point USA, which is literally just like a propaganda wing of the GOP. How much do I hate him? I hate him the same amount I hate Tucker Carlson. I hate him the same amount I hate, honestly, I also don't like Cenk Uygur about as much as I don't like Charlie Kirk. So the same as Charlie Kirk, right? So that's probably how much I don't like him.
But basically, at the moment, going to get a university degree seems like maybe not the best idea if you end up in hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, being taught by ideologues, and then being taught information that won't lead to a job. Just seems like a scam, right?
See, there's a grain of truth in what you just said. There is a grain of truth in what you just said. Universities are putting people into debt, and they're putting people who go to college in the type of debt slavery that other people like and I say slavery loosely because no one is a slave. I'm using it hyperbolically just to show us that there's no pulling out. You can't liberate yourself from the debt. The debt becomes a thing you need to acquire in order to live comfortably with health insurance and be able to have enough income so you can have a phone and drive and participate and go to movies and raise kids and have security and retirement. That debt becomes a thing that we kind of need to have in order to prosper. And even people say, oh no, start a small business or whatever it is. You still have to go into debt. Very rarely does anybody have the capital up front to do this without going into debt. So that's really what it is. But keep in mind, cultural Marxism, postmodern neo-Marxism, it's the Frankfurt School, it's the intellectual, it's the academies that are corrupting the youths of the German people in Berlin. And this is why they're adjacent to like neo-Nazis who are into the JQ, because guess who's running Hollywood? Guess who's running the central banks? Guess who's running academia? It's Jews. You see how these ideologies have like an overlap to them? Because this is the Pangburn community, I will say this. Do you guys remember uh, who here watched Sam Harris? If you like Sam Harris, put a 1 in the chat. If you don't like Sam Harris, put a 0 in the chat, and I'll get a read. But in general, there was a time where Sam Harris said he talked about the concentric models of radical Islam, and I really liked this perspective he gave because it's these concentric models of Islam that I think could be help us model the way we have to think about political parties or political ideologies in the United States. Okay, we got ones, we got zeros. D. Martin does not like Sam Harris. I want to talk to you, D. Martin. I think we'll have a good conversation. But he talked about these concentric models of Islam. And it's within this, we can think of the same thing, concentric models of very far right, ultra nationalistic movements, where at the center, we have like neo Nazi, racist bigots who want to go back to lynching black people on the trees. Another tangent, the first person the KKK lynched was a Jewish man in the South, for those who don't know, who want to like lynch black people in the trees. And then outside of that circle, you have people who aren't for that, but who believe that white people and black people should live separately. And then outside of that, you have people who don't necessarily think that white people and black people should live separately, but it's better that one keeps to its own, and we have culture, and there's cultural differences. And then, right, we have these circles. Jordan Peterson, with his ideas about academia being degenerate, full of postmodern neo-Marxist, is that outer ring just above those who believe that the academies and the universities and Hollywood is run by Jews. He's just one step above it. He says, oh, I'm not saying that. It happens to be that they're Jewish, but he's the same rhetoric, the same application is happening where these academias, these Hollywood are ideologues who are degenerating Western society. Right? They're just one step removed from it's the Jews. So Wikipedia is unreliable to use controversial topic. Not controversial topic. True. What you do have to do with Wikipedia, though, is to click on the little ones and go down to the sources and read the original sources they're clipping from. The article about cultural Marxism, I already did all that work, which is why I just read it. But yeah, make sure you read the sources, whatever you do, any work you do, please do that. Oh my god, no one's. I'm just quiet here because I played. I don't have the thing in the scene. My apologies, everyone. How dare I? How dare I be so irresponsible and not talk to you about anything?
So that the working professionals have to work in a way that isn't truthful. I mean, how do you even fight? How do you fight back against that? At what point do you just stop playing in that game?
Well, that, people have asked me that too. Why don't you just give up your license? And I would say, well, because I wouldn't be giving it
I
up.
mean, you're not answering the question, Jordan Peterson. Michaela, there is no game. There's scientific communities and researchers doing science through the scientific method of peer review. The same thing that 10 years ago, Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens were telling people who were denying evolution, who were denying the existence and the right of homosexuals to marry and have children. That's who it is.
I would be allowing it to be taken away from me. Like if I decide in a year that I don't want to be a licensed clinical psychologist because the whole damn profession has become corrupt, that's a whole different issue than letting this pack of...
See, the profession has become corrupt. Pay attention to the language, guys. Pay attention to the language. It's such an important tool to help us understand where we are historically.
craven commissar cowards organized behind the scenes utilize the complaints of random people online to justify their own envy and desire to prosecute and then fold in the face of that opposition. It's like, I'm not going to do that. And now you say, well, what do you do? And I think the only answer to that is, I think the only thing you have in a complex situation is the truth. That's all you have.
What a fucking pathetic thing to say. Is the truth. Well, what is the truth, Jordan Peterson? Do we get philosophical about this? Perry and I actually had a massive conversation about truth. We might have more in the Discord, so make sure to like, subscribe, go to the description, go to the Discord. I don't know how many times I'm going to push the Discord on you people tonight. If you're not in the Discord and you're not in the chats, you are messing up. Get in the Discord, getting the chats, please. For fuck's sakes. It's like you guys are just missing out. You're just, I don't know what you're doing. Someone just popped in on my mic. Is this you, Beef Jerky? Hello, Beef Jerky. Oh my God, Scott. What do you want to say? What do you want to say? What do you want to say, Scott? Wait, you're wait, no one can hear you now. Everyone can hear you now, Scott. Real quick,
Oh,
Scott.
yeah. Jordan Peterson makes a statement like that, but then goes on Daily Wire and is like, "Up yours, you woke Marxist fucking
Woke moralist.
yeah, you woke cultural Marxist." Like, so he attacks people all the time. It's nonsensical.
I see.
What he is saying is you can dismiss out of hand because of his own behavior.
I see. Well, Scott, you stay in the background. I'll bring you in more for some hot takes, and turn your camera
Okay,
on.
cool.
You got a sexy ass face. Just got here. Did he lose his driver's license? No. Obviously, the title is a little bit clickbaity. I'm glad it got you to click on the link, but basically, Jordan Peterson is still in the process of contending with the College of Psychiatrists of Psychologists of Ontario that are asking him to take a few media like classes or like reaccredit specific things he had to know because of specific statements he has made regarding his credentials and things online, and he's kind of salty about that and crying woe me, basically. That's what's happening here, Jared. But great to see you, Jared. Romanowski. I like your last name. Is that Polish? Polish descent? Ski, right? That's Polish. That's where you're from. Peace, guy. Peace out, Amir.
That's why you have to abide by the truth, because when things get complex around you, how do I deal with this politically? How do I deal with this personally? What do I say?
Oh, by the way, Mace, you hear? This is why I said, what does truth mean? Because to understand truth as simply the opposite of false doesn't help us in any way meaningful whatsoever. Oh, just do it in a way that's not false. Truth is something that we determine. It's not something that we simply get. It's something that we make. And by understanding truth as an operation or a thing that we make, as Perry likes to say, a lowercase t truth, as opposed to an uppercase t truth, which is that which exists independent of our mind. If we understand that truth is dependent of the mind, truth is something that we make. And there's a process of making sure that making it is done in a good, proper way. Yeah. I see. Cool, Jared.
In this terribly complex situation, all you have there that's solid ground is the truth. And one of the things to reflect upon in relationship to that is that's also why you have to live honestly, because it's very hard to tell the truth if you're simultaneously worried that the evidence of your past misbehavior, your past deceitful misbehavior is going to come to light. And so the reason you abide by the truth is so that you can say what you have to say about what you've done and who you are. And you can do that under impossibly difficult circumstances. And possibly that will sustain you through that. In circumstances where if that's not possible, you're just going to get crushed. And people.
This is why people like Jordan Peterson. What he said right there about, living with the truth, what is now, as opposed to what you had in the past, as a way of moving forward, not letting, he's not wrong. If anyone is struggling at it, that's not the worst advice. But he's smuggling in psychological advice with socio-political advice. He's smuggling in psychological advice with philosophical notions. Because myself, philosophically, and this is going to be a little bit of a little bit of a philosophically, I'll do a little bit of a tangent about philosophy real quick. When we think of truth as the foundation, as Peterson talks about, right, the substrate of reality, right? For him, when he's asked a question, is God mind dependent or mind independent? He goes, I don't know how to answer that question, because Peterson believes that metaphor is the truth, is the thing at the bottom, which is like the truth of everything, the real reality. And that's why he can't really answer that question. But the issue with that is that to think that the truth is a state, is a thing that is fixed, and it's a thing that we build on by itself, is a serious misnomer. And the reason why it's a serious misnomer is because, let's put it this way. Let's think of Descartes and Descartes' project. Descartes wanted to raise all of his foundations and all of the knowledge so he could find a singular piece of truth and from that build all knowledge. And he said, I think, therefore I am. And he went about proving that, and he didn't prove it. This is why we have the famous case of a Cartesian circle. So the question is, how do we get like a basic a foundation of a truth by which we can build all knowledge from, a capital T truth, a truth that is independent of our mind, regardless if all human minds were there? That's Descartes got me. I don't know how. I don't think we can do that. I don't think it's even possible to do that. So when we think about truth, we have to think about how do we build truths on shaky ground, not on absolute notions. By recognizing that truth is a thing that we construct, this shaky sand, and it's going to fall apart, and we have to be able to be fallible, and we have to be able to say we have to change our beliefs. And science is a really good tool for doing this. Philosophy is a really good tool for doing this. Criticizing oneself and consistently trying to falsify one's own position by adopting other viewpoints and steel manning our opponents is the way to go about it, as a way of reaching philosophical enlightenment. I think is important, or especially political ones, because much of the conversations that we're having politically today are around gender, they're around what does it mean to be American? What does it mean to be a man? What is it? Right? This is the kind of the questions that we're having, and maybe that's a little bit of philosophical insight. I don't know if I elucidated that the best, but I tried. I don't know what else to say. Bunch of single men here. Dan Davidson. What a big Giga Chad brain. Andrew Tate. Okay, child. Damn, guys are getting in riffraff over there. Relax. Word salad with derp dressing? Are you talking to me? What? Damn. That hurts. If you are talking about me, jump in, talk to me. I'll put the link in the chat again. I want to talk to someone. Is no one going to come talk to me tonight? Making me feel sad and alone. But let me unclick that. Where is that? Okay. Let's finish this Peterson video, and then we can move on to the next topic.
People might say, well, being investigated by your professional body isn't exactly a life-threatening event, and you're just whining. It's like, look, for all you people who think that this is such a walk in the park, I'll tell you two things. Number one, I've known about 200 people who face this sort of thing now, and every single one of them, with the exception of those people who like a fight, right, a tiny, tiny minority of people, maybe one or two in that entire 200, they reacted as if they or someone they loved had contracted a life-threatening illness. I've known people, very stable people, extremely elegant, polished, educated, well-positioned, well-supported people who literally ended up in psych wards because of the pressure that was brought to bear on them by the accusatory mob. And so those of you who think this is a cakewalk, you just bloody well wait till your neighbors show up on your doorstep with pitchforks and torches, and you just see what that's like for yourself. So you better watch yourself very carefully if you think that the people who are complaining about being mobbed are just complaining because they can't take it.
Yeah.
So,
well, that you also hear about. I mean, that's a silly thing to think too. You hear about university students who you can get bullied online. It's not life-threatening, but it is life-threatening to some people. Like, it makes some people suicidal from stress.
Guys, he's not wrong. I actually agree with Peterson here. Wholeheartedly agree with him. They're not just crying because they can't handle it. They feel alienated. A lot of conservatives, especially those in academia, feel very alienated. They're very resentful. They feel pushed out of the spotlight. And with that resentment comes out of feelings of being hurt. Imagine someone who's alienated from their community, like Jordan Peterson was, or people like Dave Rubin, or any other reactionary thinker. They always talk about how the left elite pushed them out. They laugh at their ideas. They're not being taken seriously. And with the rise of the internet and the rise of independent media, they started speaking their mind and saying this out loud. Unfortunately, a lot of their base are people who have less of an education, who didn't actually take a rigorous, approach to education, or from states that don't have as good of an education. And that's just the sad case of the whole thing. Yeah, let me bring you in. Let me bring you in, Scott. Let me bring you in. 1 second. You're not in yet. You're not in yet. There you are. You're in, dude. But you got to turn your turn your camera on. You know that, right?
I don't right now. Like I'm like fucking shirt off right now.
Okay, fine.
So I mean, with that, what I find really strange is the argument that, God damn it, you
Oh,
lost me when you asked me to bring on my camera. What were you
no.
talking
Okay, we
about?
were talking about them being resentful, being ousted, being alienated by their
Yes, yes,
community.
being resentful. Yeah, and that's a thing. Like, I do think he is definitely resentful because he thinks he should be at a higher position and he's not, so he lashes out at other people, right? So
Hmm.
all these people in psychology, like, of course, everything that I've studied for all this amount of time, it's going to be defunct because they don't go along with my personal opinions that I'm saying right now.
Hmm.
And it's this weird fucking, I don't know. It's like the angry guy that at the office that feels like they're not appreciated, and they're just like complaining all the time. That
Uh-huh.
is Jordan Peterson. It's like, dude, just shut the fuck up and do your work.
That's how you feel about. But let me ask you a serious question. Do you think that where do you think the academia and the left and people who are generally in positions of, where did, like, obviously we can't control, I mean, not, I'm saying royal we, not we, but those
Yeah.
in power can control, um call it trying to read Peterson's mind. Yeah, you're right, Dan. We're playing a little bit of, like, mental reading, a little bit of, like, not really serious trying to go about the issue, and that's okay. We're allowed to have these conversations, guys. Dan, why don't you come onto the show? Do it. Come on, you got
Yeah.
this. Just jump in. We can have a good conversation. Your ideas can be explained. I promise I don't bite unless you
Yep.
really want me to, but then we have to talk about it first.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah. I mean,
so
it's really easy. I mean, if you're willing to talk to people and just be open, it's not a problem. I do see there's a comment from old Dan Davidson. Caller is trying to read Peterson's mind.
yeah, yeah, I put that
Are
up.
you
I put
fucking
that up.
kidding me? Do you not watch Jordan Peterson where he reads people's minds all the fucking
Okay, but
time?
I have a question. But
Oh,
let's stay on point. Let's stay on
he's a
point.
cultural Marxist. Get the fuck out of here, dude.
what I'm not gonna take you seriously, Dan, if you're not gonna actually
Yeah,
contend with what we're talking about.
let's go
My
serious.
question to you, real quick, Scott, is what do you think can be done from these academic communities, from these institutions, where it seems like they have alienated people who used to be a part of their circles, who are now feel alienated, who maybe need a safe space to talk about these ideas, and should we supply them a safe space within academic circles? Is basically what I'm asking you.
I do think we should. I mean, obviously, like any idea academically is worth being discussed. Um, but if there is no there, you have to be ready to jettison your bad thoughts and accept what actually works, right?
I guess so.
I mean, like with Copernicus, like all of a sudden people realize the world is round, and it took how many hundreds of years for some morons to be like, oh no, the Earth is flat. But these aren't real academics. No real academic is arguing that the Earth is flat anymore. Now, if Jordan Peterson is arguing some controversial positions that can be proven or have like some sort of academic level of rigidity or way to actually determine whether this is right or not, yes, this is totally worthwhile. 100%.
I see. Well, what? How about this? What if I say, well, he has his degree, he got his PhD, he's a tenured professor. Should a tenured professor who is consistently pushing against the current, even if they are speaking against evolution or against geocentrism, should they not have the space to do that within the academy that gave him their tenure?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, if they're arguing against evolution, definitely don't let them be like in the realm of biology, just because it doesn't make any sense, right? Like even somebody arguing against evolution and biology, there'd be nothing that they can contribute to the field. Now, they might be able to contribute things to other fields in science, whether it be physics or whether it be fluid dynamics or whether it be philosophy or whatever route we go down, right? There are plenty of people who believe in crazy shit, but they are like high level physicists,
I hear you.
right? But find a biologist that doesn't believe in evolution. Fuck me running. That's a problem.
Sure. And maybe we're not going to figure out the solution. I don't want to finish this topic completely. So Mace, if you do want to talk about something related to Jordan Peterson, I'm about like. By the way, thank you, Scott. I will. You know, you're always here in the background. I know you can hear me, and I can hear you. So if you want to jump back up, let me know. But before I move on to the new topic, Mace, if you want to jump in now and talk about something relating to Jordan Peterson, please do, because I'm about to move on to more Trump related things and more political related things. So if you want to jump in, you got about 10 seconds right now. So, I mean, that's really up to you if you really want to do that. Um, so do you want the 10 seconds to come in? Because I'll just count for you. Just let me know what you want. Let's see. Come on. Nope. Going once, going twice, going 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Okay, yeah, it's time to go back to more political stuff. Okay, so I'm eating right now. Okay, well, eating is less important. I don't have too much. We'll probably have 30 more minutes of the show because I got to do some other things. But there is this guy I think called like Valuetainment or whatever it might be, and he had Cenk Uygur on uh, for an interview about his new book called Justice is Coming or something like that. I kind of scrubbed through it. I didn't watch the whole thing, but the point of me bringing it up is that that's kind of what I'm gonna be talking about. Oh my god, this chair is hurting my back for some whatever reason. God is dead. That is correct. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that. We'll bring that in. We'll see how that goes. No, not like that. There we go. That's what I wanted precisely.
And about Donald Trump. Yes, I think Hillary Clinton said 2 correct things in her life. One of them was the deplorable line that everybody hates. No, that's totally true. In my opinion, half the Republican base is deplorable. And I think they are racist, bigots, sexist, etc. We could talk about easily half, okay? But the other half.
Wait, what? I'm a raging misogynist? What did I say? What did I say that makes me a raging misogynist? What did I do something wrong? Explain this to me. Explain this to me. These are baseless accusations, I say. Baseless accusations.
That's 40 million people in America.
Absolutely.
You believe that, bro.
100%. We could debate it. Okay, but hold on. Let me get to the other 40 million. Okay. The other 36 million or so that voted for Trump, no, they're just angry that the establishment is screwing them. And they don't know how they're getting screwed.
That's exactly what Charlie Kirk said.
Right. And that's
they're
what
scorned.
And they hate mainstream media, and they're right.
I agree with that.
Because mainstream media is a factory of lies. So they'll say, oh, the status quo is great. Who?
They say mainstream media is a factory of lies. Who was lying about the election? Is it mainstream media? I mean, Fox News, which is obviously the most mainstream media, right? But who was lying about specific things regarding COVID outside of Fox News? We're talking about mainstream media. Cenk, it's independent media that has really failed to check its sources. And why? The reason why is because not mainstream media doesn't have the infrastructure that BBC doesn't have the infrastructure that CNN does. It's not the New York Times, it's not the Wall Street Journal. They are institutions that are getting the news and then relaying it to you with a spin. They're not journalistic outtakes. So for him to say that it's just mainstream media saying lie after lie, that is bullshit. That is wrong. It's the Young Turks. It's this podcast. It's my show that is most likely to lie to you. Yeah, Everything I say, please double check me. I could be wrong at every institution, and at every moment, I could be telling you something wrong. And I will correct myself, and I will try to be as honest as I can. But I'm still just a naked cave ape like the rest of you. So
Yeah, the billionaires who run those companies and the millionaires who are on air, yes, for you guys, everything's hunky-dory. But it's not great for when wages didn't go up for 45 straight years. Now, because of inflation, they ironically went up a little bit. But for 40...
okay, we have HGUL main. If I will talk about free will, if you jump into the chat, if you jump into, I will talk about free will right now. I will stop everything I'm doing, and I will just talk about why I think we don't have free will. So, if you want to do that, let's do that. Until then, I'll wait until it's over. Maybe we'll talk about free will on another podcast. You'll have to come tomorrow. So.
5 years straight, wages did not go up. Okay, we have no universal health care in this country when every other developed country in the world has it. We have no paid family leave. We send moms back to the assembly lines and coal mines the day after they deliver. So we have corporate rule in America. And chapter 5 is about the matrix, and that's mainstream media that lulls you back to sleep. Corporate power is awesome. Corporate rule is great. The lobbyists are innocent. The politicians, oh my God, they're such sweethearts. They're having ideological differences and they're having debates. No, they're not. They're getting checks and then doing exactly as they are told. And that's true of 99% of the Republican Party. And yes, 80% of the Democratic Party at least.
One of the issues I have with Cenk is that he provides a narrative by which he thinks that these actors are acting with some sort of agency. It's not just that they're getting checks and going, oh, well, Goldman Sachs told me to do this, blah, 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 blah. It's that they begin their careers and they have donors and people come to them, lobbyists, about specific things to do, and it benefits their population and it makes them uh, feel well, whatever it is. And it's and throughout that process, throughout that system, where think about it like a sieve, right? Think, like a colander, that you have your colander for pasta that has big holes, then you have the fine mesh sieves, and then you have like the thing you like sift flour with. These systems are sifting individuals that are aiding in the establishment, that are maintaining the status quo. It's not like they're just getting checks and doing exactly what they're doing. It's an entire system that perpetuates itself. That's how systems operate. Our bodies operate the same ways. Evolution operates. It creates organisms, systems, machines that perpetuate themselves throughout space and time in our reality. And they work forward and continue doing that. So, Xbox guy, yes, that is correct. Cenk does not understand the dynamics of social systems. Couldn't have said it better myself. This is a gold star comment. This is a gold star comment. By the way, if you guys don't know this, our Rumble shows on Sundays does giveaways. We haven't had the audience to do it properly, but if we do, there's going to be giveaways for people for our Sunday Rumble shows. And the way this is going to work basically is that if you're in the comments and you're being good faith, after during the show, we have people on the back end highlighting what are the best comments and who is the most helpful in the chat. And then the hosts are going to choose who can win. These are going to be like Pangburn tickets. These are going to be merch, a bunch of really cool signed autograph stuff from all around, even just money. There's just $200, $100, an Audible thing, an Amazon gift card. All of these giveaways are going to exist. So for people who say good things, just know that's going to happen. That's why liberalism is ridiculous. To understand how social systems, you need to understand frameworks like Marxism to understand it. I mean, this is true. I think that a lot of people are afraid of the ideas of like Marx and Marxism because there's other shits that tie to Marx that obviously wasn't the best. But we can think past an ideology from the 19th century. We can take these ideas and develop them further and grow into post-Marxists who understand. Oh, how do I join? Let me send you an invite guest. Here you go. Paste. Here you go. Here you go, HGU main. That's how you would do it. Do this link right now that I just posted in. Pangburn. Jump in the room, and I'll bring you in to have a conversation. But yeah, it's a really good point, Xbox guy. I have not seen you before in the chat. You should subscribe. I mean, you already subscribed here, but my channel is in the description. I'm just doing a guest show on Penguin's main channel, and I hope you like it and are enjoying it. So definitely jump in, like, subscribe. Whenever you're ready, HG, you can come in and we'll talk about free will. But until then, like I said, we're talking about chunky yogurt, right? Armenian genocide denying chunky yogurt. So
The way you just said it was so funny. So 99% Republican Party, 80% the Democratic Party. Okay. Can you pull up the chart that just came up? This one right here. Total spending of presidential campaign financing in the United States. They changed a law, I think, in 2019, 2020 that allowed corporations to just open up their checkbooks. I'm sure you're familiar with this. Look at the kind of money we raise for presidential campaigns. From Carter, 197 million, to Reagan, 228 million, to Reagan again, 380, to Bush Sr., 346, to Clinton, 478, to Clinton again, 612, then it's Bush, 891, then it's Obama, I think it's, 1.769 billion, 1.4 billion again Obama, 1.529 million Hillary Trump. Boom! $4 billion, whatever they could to get rid of Trump. They spend all the money in the world to get rid of this guy. They figured out.
guys, we have a special guest in the chat. It is HGU. What is up, my man? Can you hear me? Hello, HGU. HGU going once, going twice. I can still hear you in the back end. Can you hear me? Hello, HGU, can you hear me? Well, if you can hear me, talk in the chat. I'll keep doing the other thing until then, but let me know what's going on. No, you can hear him because you're as beef jerky in the chat. Don't worry about that. No one else can hear him. So, but yeah, what Xbox, what you're saying is true, right? I think Keynes also did, but this is why I take a post-Marxist approach, like a post-Keynesian approach. I try to see what contemporary academics are thinking about and talking about. Yeah. Ohio does look like it's going blue, which is good too. I mean, I think the GOP is going to have a very hard time with all these indictments and as the facts roll out and because Trump was really the figure. He was like the cult leader of the party, and without that, he's struggling. HGU, can you hear me? HGU, can you hear me? No? Okay. I can hear you burp. Let me try to message him. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Okay. I can hear them clicking around in the background. Whatever.
Ways to say, dude, if we can outspend that guy, because, we can be controlled. So this is the part where, for me, where we agree and where we disagree. This is the part. Like, I had Ari Fleischer here. You know who Ari Fleischer is? And I'm like, a couple of the decisions you guys made when you listen to the CI and I'm like, why wouldn't you double verify this? This is a big decision you're making to do this, to do that. Well, I don't know, but we could have done this and we could have done that. And we had Paul Manafort here. I'm like, dude, lobbying. Why? It's the dirtiest thing out there. And he's like, well, I totally get it. But, him and Roger Stone started the lobbying firm. I don't know one of the most powerful lobby firms that they had together 30 years ago, 40 years ago. He said, well, the other guy's going to do it. What are you going to do? Sit on the sidelines? Okay, valid point. But I like both sides not to do it, right? However, when you look at it now, and you see the kind.
How did he just manage to entirely shift the conversation away from anything that Cenk was talking about and not address it at all? Like the fuck? He just completely sidestepped that entire thing Cenk talked about. It. Let's see if Cenk brings him back on topic.
Kind of money that's being spent on the left for them to push their agendas over. You set aside this lobby stuff out. You set aside corporations putting money in to who they buy. Like, the joke about Koch brothers. Well, he wakes up and says, what do I get for my birthday? Which president, right? Now it's more the left that's doing that. You got the Soroses, you got the Larry Fink and BlackRock with how their ESG score and, State Street and Vanguard, and that thing's becoming a reality where it's no longer about Democrat and Republican. It's truly becoming more about the establishment folks and the anti-establishment folks.
100%.
And if we're talking anti-establishment, Cenk, you have to agree on this, bro. You have to agree on this. I know it's going to be tough for you to agree on this, but if you don't, give me everything you got, what I say right now. You can't say Trump is an establishment candidate.
No, but I can't say he's corrupt. So there's a huge difference.
Okay, it depends what you mean by establishment and anti-establishment, right? Is Trump a career politician? No. Is he establishment? Yeah. He's been donating to politicians. He's been a part of political machines his whole life. He's been using politics and the power of lobbying to get what he wanted in New York for a very long time. He is corrupt, but he's also an establishment human being within that framework. So, you see, this is someone who understands what postmodern neo-Marxist means. Xbox guy, beautifully based. Love it. Love it. You know what's going on. HGU in the background. Can you hear me? Because I can hear your typing and it's getting a bit too much. So I'm going to have to mute you if you're not going to be willing to jump in and have a conversation. HG, can you hear me? I'm talking to you right now over the app and you're in it. Hello? I can hear you. You could just have to speak and I'll be able to hear you back. This is weird. HGU. Come on. Whatever.
Difference, and I'll explain.
Okay, fair. Go for it.
Okay, so Trump is not establishment. The establishment hates him. You're totally right about that. Okay, and so
which for guys like us, we like that, don't we?
Yeah, but then you have to see, okay, why do they hate him, right? And so, number one, he's unstable. So business
can't be controlled.
This is true.
And that's also true, though.
Okay.
That's also true.
Okay.
Well, no, he can't be controlled because he's so unstable and unhinged.
Which is a strength, though. In a way, it is an edge you have against your enemy.
I am so unstable and so unhinged that it's a strength against your enemy. How does this guy think about politics? Like two people in a boxing ring just like fighting it out? Like, like he's Tony Ferguson? Like, oh, I'm Tony Ferguson. I have elbows and whatever it is, and kicks and kimuras and triangles. I'm unhinged. We're talking about a political leader. We're talking about someone who's supposed to run the country. You can't have a political narcissist running the country. How is that even a talking point?
I mean, because if the enemy feels they can't control you, dude, we have to eliminate you if we can't control you.
Well, okay, now let's talk about that, though.
Okay.
So now why do I still say he's super corrupt? And by the way, those stats you showed are in my book, okay? And I explain why. Once the Supreme Court, activist judges on the Supreme Court changed the rules, they basically allowed for bribery, okay?
That's insane.
They legalized bribery. I outline it perfectly clearly. And there was a guy from the Chamber of Commerce, Lewis Powell, who said we could just buy the if we get on the Supreme Court, we could buy the whole country. Corporations just can outspend everyone, right? And they did it. Nixon said, boom, you're on the Supreme Court, and they did it in Bellotti, they did it in Buckley v. Vallejo, they legalized bribery. Now, Trump had trouble getting money from normal corporate interests. And I agree, that's normally a good thing, right? So what did he do?
I'm just guessing here. I don't know the reason, but I would say normal corporate interests were like, we know Trump is a fucking psycho. We can't be giving this guy money to be a president because he's unhinged, right? In a capitalist market, for capitalists, and when I say capitalists, I don't just mean small business. I mean people who own the means of production. Those who have the ability to literally affect our day-to-day life because they decide to increase the charge for a specific thing. They can't have laws shifting and flying left and right. And they need stability to actually create long-term plans. So we have, HG left. Okay. What are you allowed to talk about, unworthy servant? What do you want to talk about? Send me. What is it that you want to speak about? Because guys, I have like 10 minutes left. So do you guys want to see me talk with chatter, or do you guys want to see me continue religion and its benefits? Okay, we can talk about religion and its benefits. We can make a whole 180. I don't like Cenk Uygur anyway. Fuck Cenk Uygur. Fuck this podcast. Not interested. Okay. So let me bring you in, Unworthy, and we can have a conversation. So I'm bringing you in right now. Okay, you are on. What is it you
How
want to
you
talk about?
how you doing?
I'm doing great.
You make a lot of videos about religion and theism. I just want to know what side are you on? Are you like secular or are you theist? Or are you agnostics?
Are you talking about Pangburn channel or my personal channel? Because I'm a guest on Pangburn's channel.
I mean, it has to be the same thing. I mean, you have to share his views to be on the channel,
No,
right?
you actually don't, and that's one of the beautiful thing about the Pangburn universe. The Pangburn Universe is a project that this Discord and Pangburn started about giving people who have good faith conversations a platform to explore their ideas, regardless of what they believe. So, but I can tell you what I think. Personally, I'm a Gnostic atheist regarding the Abrahamic God and an agnostic atheist regarding a deistic God.
I thought I saw you on one of the channels. Have you ever been on the there's a show in Austin, Texas called The Atheist Experience or Talkie Even. There's
No,
someone who
I've never been on that show, but I no,
okay.
I've not. But you can talk to me about it. What is it you want to talk to me about?
What I want to talk to you about is like basically if there, let's say there's a god, right?
Okay.
And you die, and if you believe in him and it turns out that that was not real, there's basically nothing that you would lose. But if uh the, but if you never believed in him and you just die, and if there's like a judgment, you possibly have a risk of losing your eternal inheritance, right? So it's better to be a Christian and be wrong rather than be an atheist and be wrong.
Okay. Do you know who originally thought about this idea that you're talking about? That was
uh,
Pascal. Yeah, Pascal's wager. There's a few responses to Pascal's wager. I mean, the most obvious one is, which God are you talking about? What if I believe in Allah, but I don't believe in
no,
Jesus?
no, no. I don't believe in Islam.
Yeah, I know. I'm not, but let's say Islam is true,
No,
but
it's not.
no.
It's ancient mythology.
But let's say Islam is true,
But
right?
there's no possible way where Islam could be true. We know
Well,
that it's
how
fiction.
how about Christianity?
Christianity is the only true religion.
Okay, now there are billions of people around the world who disagree with you. So in the same way that you and I disagree on the fact that Christianity is true, right? I don't believe Christianity is true, and you do believe Christianity is true. There are some people who believe that Islam is true and Christianity is false. And the debates here have been happening for a long time. Can't a Muslim say, well, let's say you die and you realize Allah was true, why didn't you just not believe in Allah? This is like the basic response to Pascal's wager. Why not just, right,
Yeah,
believe in the God? Because the question is, which God are you talking about?
I'm talking about Christ is God, right? So it's like in there's a scripture in First Timothy 3:15 where it says God was manifested in the flesh. So Christ is God.
Yeah, I understand. I understand what we believe. Do you want to talk about Pascal's wager, or do you want to talk about
Christianity specifically.
you want to talk
Why
about
do you think
Christianity?
Christianity is wrong? Were you a Christian at one point?
No, I was Orthodox Jewish in my
You were
teens.
Jewish, so
Yeah,
you were more close to Jesus then, because Jesus was a Jewish man.
sure. But I don't believe the Jewish Bible is. I think
But
it's
you
also
used to
mythology.
believe, but you used to be Jewish, right?
I am still Jewish. I used
And
to be. I'm a secular Jew because I think Judaism has an
but
ethnicity part, but I'm not religious now.
salvation was for the Jews first.
Yeah,
Romans chapter 1.
I would rather you don't preach and we just have a conversation.
Okay,
So
okay, let's have a conversation. Why do you think Christianity is false?
the
The
reason,
reason I think is true is
okay,
because Christ was resurrected from the dead.
okay.
There's what's you have to disprove Christianity to say that Christianity is false.
So I can take both positions. I can play the agnostic atheist where I say, well, how do you know that? What is your evidence? And then you'll quote me some passage in the Bible, right? And then we'll kind of get into and tell me if I'm going. You probably had these conversations before. and we're gonna go in a direction where you start telling me, oh, there's Josephus and there's these testaments, and we're gonna have to start kind of talking about how do we even get to truth? What is reliable truth? That's one way we can talk about it. The other way we can talk about it is by falsifying the Old Testament, by disproving the foundation that Christianity is even built upon in the first place. And I think it's
Before we do that, can I
yeah,
say, like, I'm not, I was not even trying to preach. I'm really here desperate for conversation.
yeah, okay,
What the reason why I quote scriptures is you need proof. You need a
yes,
premise.
yeah. Scripture is not going to be
You
proof
have
to
to,
me.
yeah, yeah,
You're gonna have to prove that Scripture is valid, right? I can
but
quote whatever book I
but
want.
the
Doesn't
reason
mean I
why I
take it
quoted was
seriously.
not I'm trying to preach. It was just mostly
Okay,
when I talk to atheists, when I say like scripture says this and that, I'm just trying to let you know these are my beliefs. Now you could tell me why you disagree. So I was
okay,
basically giving you a premise. So you
okay.
have to know my,
So
and
sure.
first of all, there are thousands of denomination. I have to
I
specify
know.
what I
I
believe.
know.
So
I get
if
you.
you say that there's a or a priest, a Catholic priest who rapes children, I really don't care because I'm not a Catholic.
Yeah, but
A
I wasn't gonna
Protestant.
talk. I wasn't gonna. So how about this? Why do you think the Bible is true? Why do you think I should take the Bible seriously?
Uh, I think it's in 2 Timothy 3:13. All scriptures is God breathed and useful for instruction. So what I think is, like Jesus really believed that the scriptures were true. Luke 24:17, it says that you have to believe the
Okay,
words in the
let me.
prophet.
Can we just pause for a second?
What I believe is the
Do you
apostles'
know? One second.
doctrine.
One second. Do you know what circular reasoning is?
Yeah.
Do,
That's what you're using right now
no,
because
no,
you're
no.
using
Let me finish
humanism
speaking,
to
please.
actually disprove.
I
Okay.
you don't know if I'm a humanist or not. You don't know if I'm a transhumanist. You don't know what I am. Circular reasoning is when the or begging the question anyhow is when the conclusion when the conclusion is in the premise. So if I asked you what makes you think the Bible is true, and you
What I
quote
think
one
is
second, you're gonna have to let me finish.
okay.
If you're gonna quote the Bible to tell me that the Bible is true, that's a circular argument. That's a logical fallacy, right? It's like me telling you I know the Quran is true, and then I quote you the Quran. Well, I haven't. You have not shown me why the Bible, the Christian Bible, is true. Why I should even take it seriously. You haven't given me that yet. So for you to quote that as evidence for why the Christian Bible is true, that's a circular argument. Right? You're gonna have to give me something that's not you can't just quote the Bible at me because that's like me opening up Harry Potter and then reading in the book, well, Harry Potter is true because in the book it says that it's true. That's not how we figure out the truth of things. So you can't just quote at me the Bible as to why the Bible is true. Do you recognize that?
I recognize that, but also when I live my life, let's say, okay, let's get outside the Bible, right? So when I live
Okay.
my life, when I do certain things that are wrong, I get this conscious guilt, which proves to me that there's a God out there creating judgment down in my heart. So whenever I commit sin, whenever I do things that are, that's why I came back to. By the way, I used to be a skeptical. I was raised in.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't
Can
want
I can I turn on the video? By the way,
of course, so long as you're not naked, there's no penises.
what
Hey, dude, have you ever been
was
on
that a
Omegle?
joke?
Yeah, of course it's a joke. Of course it's a joke.
Okay, okay. So here's the thing. I was raised in
Okay.
a Mennonite background. I'm not a Mennonite right now, by the way. I'm Pentecostal, but
Yeah,
I'm a
but
Calvinist.
I don't want I don't we don't need to we
Uh,
don't we I love you,
yeah,
bro.
yeah. I'm telling you how I came
Yeah.
to know that even outside the Bible, I was a skeptical. I said, I mean, I was not atheist like you, but I said, like, what if this is a wrong belief? And I went
Okay.
through a journey of doubting Christianity, doubting Christianity. But even when I left Christianity, I could still have the conscious where I know what is true or false, what
Sure.
is wrong or right, what is
That
sin or
yeah,
righteousness.
but you're saying that conscience, that notions of truthness and falseness about what is right and what is wrong come from God as opposed to coming from your mind, as opposed to things being born of your learning process, and um, being around your community and having empathy. All of these other things are better explanations for how we have our morals and how we know and have intuitions about what is right and wrong. And the reason why they're better explanations, because scientists and psychologists can use these notions and predict human behavior. To just think about, oh, God is the reason for these beliefs or these feelings, doesn't give us any, doesn't help us at all deal with this problem. It simply tells us, oh, I plug in God into the equation and my gap is filled, right? It's called God of the gaps. I have an idea and I don't know where it comes from. I say it's from God and that checks the mark. That's not a reason to believe in God. That's saying I have emotions and I have feelings. Where do they come from? And just saying that comes from God doesn't answer. That's just I don't know, taking an aspirin when you have a brain hemorrhage. It doesn't actually deal with the problem. It's simply a solution without a substantiation. So, like, why do you think that God is the only way to explain, or the best way to explain, where our morals come from?
Okay, why I think that is the way that I feel about things were very consistent with the New Testament. So, what I view as moral, what I even without believing in Christianity, even before I started believing, I went back to Christianity, right? So I had this conscious where I have to get this forgiveness, and when I study New Testament, it told me that there's a guy named Jesus who died for me. So I could just like, uh,
Well,
what I think
what
is,
if I read the Quran and it told me there's a guy named Muhammad, there's a guy named Allah? What if I read the Bhagavad Gita who told me there's
isn't that
Vishnu?
your right?
Of course, it's your right. I'm not
We
telling
can
you.
we can
I'm
believe,
not.
as long
I'm
as
not
we're
telling
not
you.
harming.
I'm not
Okay,
telling you.
as
I'm
long
not
as
telling you
we're
what
not,
to believe. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm
as
simply
long as
asking
we're
for your
not,
justification, and your justification
okay,
doesn't seem to actually get you the conclusion. You're telling me it's like me if I ask a 10-year-old, why did you eat the ice cream, and they tell me because I wanted to. That's a reason, but it's not a
yeah,
justification. Justify why it was okay for you. Why is it good
okay,
that you had the ice cream? Why did you break the rules of the house? Right? You can give me a reason, but that reason
okay.
isn't a justification. So, what's a
So
valid justification for thinking that God is proven by you having morals?
okay, so what state are you in, by the way? Let me just ask you.
I'm in New
Let me
York.
start. You're in New York. Okay. Oh, that will be a very bad example. I'm in Texas.
Okay.
So I don't know how um, lengthy it is. So there are a lot of people who are homeless, right? You're talking about capitalism and people making fun of. Why do you think that you feel compassion toward the people who are harmed? Whenever you see oppression, why do you think that you
Why,
feel
why
such a
do I
weight?
why do I think we have compassion? Well,
Yeah,
there are many explanations. One of them,
but it's
it,
still a
one
circular argument,
no,
right?
it's not. I'm not making a circular
It is
argument.
circular argument
No,
because
see,
you're
here
gonna
I'll tell you.
say that.
You see this beautiful kitty right here. See this beautiful cat, right? Look at this. Let's look at this beautiful cat. Okay, why do you think I have compassion for this cat? Do you think
I
it's
mean,
because?
I'm not a
Listen,
cat person,
let me
so I
tell you.
can't really
Let me
tell.
tell you. Why do you
I'm
think
more
this?
of a dog person.
I used to have my dogs my whole life. Why do you think I have
Okay.
compassion for this cat? And why do you think this cat has compassion for me? Did God put compassion in this cat's mind? Did it put compassion in my mind? But we have very naturalistic explanations for this, that we're a social creature, that we learn compassion from one another, that we have societal structures that make us maintain our compassion. And these explanations make a lot give us real pragmatic utility when we're exploring human behavior. Um, the God one doesn't do anything. It's just an explanation without any justification. So
You
don't shift the burden of proof and tell me that I have to give you a justification. You have to give me a justification. I can give you a bunch that are backed up by scientific sources, but you're the one here making the claim that it is God, that morality justifies the existence of God. And you're going to have to show that. I'm not going to let you move away from that point.
okay?
You have to show me how morality justifies the existence of God.
Why I think that is because even if people never believed and Christian God. People have different views on religion, different takes on politics, right? Uh, we seem to have a very constant pattern of what we think that is right or wrong. So it seems like there has to be a person who wrote those things on our heart or mind. So if I took your worldview and I said that like there is no deity, is everything, there's no explanation which is like supernatural, that wouldn't make any sense.
Of
So
course,
I
it
think
would make more sense than
it,
yours because people disagree. People disagree on what is right and what is wrong. People don't have the same morals and values etched on their heart. If it was true, but you're saying, we would see that people would across the world all agree on what is right and wrong, but they don't. They disagree
so,
so much. They disagree so much they go to war for it. Your explanation is that everywhere, all around the
someone.
world, people have to be tempted by some sort of devils or some sort of like demons, or they're corrupted because they refuse to see God. Well, my explanation recognizes that human beings are different and develop moral codes differently, and it's not and it's not written on our hearts by God, but rather we created it and we make it, and that makes a lot more sense when we look at reality. It is your position that puts you into a place that you can't make sense of reality anymore, not my position.
Okay, someone commented saying that he defends slavery. I never defended slavery. I don't
Don't
know
worry about the
what you're
comments. You're
saying.
talking with me. Don't worry about the comments.
Okay, you
And by the
said
way, we only
something very interesting.
unfortunately we also only have about 5 minutes, but we can
Okay,
continue the show another
you
time. So
you said that you could disprove the Old Testament. How could you disprove the Old Testament? Let's
it's
start
very
off.
simple. When we
Okay.
think of disproving anything, we're talking about not just falsifying it, but showing otherwise, right? So showing the contrary. If I tell you that a vase, we both have a different room in our house. You hear something break and fall there, and I say, "Oh, a ghost did it," and you say, "A ghost didn't do it." If I can't prove it's a ghost, then you're agnostic about the fact that a ghost put it. You don't believe me. But if we have security footage that it was a cat that dropped the vase over, now I know for sure it's not a ghost. Would you agree with that statement?
Uh, I'm not
I
sure
prove.
where
Okay,
you're going with this, but okay, let me
right.
agree.
No, I want you to. I want it to make sense. In the room next to you, there's a table with a vase on it with flowers, and it falls and breaks. I tell you it's a ghost, and you go, and you don't know if it's a ghost or not. So you go, I don't know what it is. I don't believe you that it's a ghost, but I don't know that it's not a ghost. I haven't disproved that it's a ghost. You, me, just hasn't proved that it is a ghost. But you also have a video camera, and when you check on the video camera, you see that it was a cat. Now you have disproved that it was a ghost. You know for sure that it's not a ghost because you have evidence that it's a cat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so the Old Testament makes specific claims about how the world was created, claims about a flood, claims about the tribes of Israel, claims about Exodus. It says that God gave Moses rocks on the mountain. And when we look at the archaeological evidence, what we end up finding isn't that God did these things, but that there were idols, and that there wasn't a worldwide flood, and that the earth is billions of years old. We have the other thing. We have evidence of the cat dropping the vase. And that's how I know that the Old Testament is false.
Okay, what about you said the Old Testament is false. Okay,
Yeah.
even if we agree to that, you still did not disprove the doctrine what I believe, which is the apostles' doctrine. Now
Of
you
course
need
I
to
did.
disprove
Of course
the
I
New
did.
Testament.
Bro, no, of course, don't play that game. You
Okay.
know, and you know that if I take
No, no, no.
a
I
if I
believe in the
no
Old
if
Testament. I
if
believe in
I
the Old
if
Testament. What
yeah
I'm
if I
saying is,
bro if I take a
if we
tank,
could agree on that
if
premise.
I chop the base of the tree, the
Okay.
branches can't stand. The Old Testament is the base for the New Testament.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no,
If I
no.
can falsify
I
the Old
agree.
Testament, okay, so don't so
No, no, no.
address what I'm
I'm
saying.
just playing the devil's advocate. What I'm saying is like, what I am saying is, I believe in the Old Testament. First of all, what I'm saying is, what if someone says that, like, let's say that, okay, we agree on the premise, but we still have 27 books left. on the menu. So you still have to disprove that Christ never rose from the dead, because that's the dogma of Christianity. Christianity's dogma is not God created the heavens and the earth in 7 days. You have to disprove that Christ never rose from the dead.
Do you believe that that God flooded the world?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay,
because it's
I can
mentioned.
easily disprove that and show otherwise that he didn't. Do you believe that the Jews had exited Egypt and had an exodus?
Okay, let me tell
Answer the
you the
question.
reason why.
Answer the question. Don't dodge it. Do you believe the
No, no,
Jews
no.
exit?
I,
Answer the
I'm giving
question.
you a yes
Okay,
answer.
give me another.
But let me tell
Let me
you
do
the
another
reason
question.
why.
Let me do another.
Okay.
I'm proving my point. Let me do another question. Do you believe that the Bible was revealed at Mount Sinai to the Jews?
No, it was revealed to Moses by the angels.
Do you believe that the Bible was revealed to Moses by the angels at Mount Sinai?
Yeah, Acts chapter
Okay,
7, verse 58.
the evidence shows that the Bible was written 500 BCE by King
So,
Josiah and was put together. That's what the evidence shows. That is the video camera of the cat dropping the vase.
no,
If you're not
no.
gonna contend with that, I'm gonna have to let you go and move on to Mace.
I mean, you just proved nothing, but I don't know why
I did
you
not
think
just
you
prove
made a
nothing.
point.
I laid out my argument. You're gonna have to contend with what I said, and not just move on and not just ignore it as if it never was said. That
No,
disproves the claims that you just said. I have evidence disproving that there was a worldwide flood, that the and the angels revealed the Torah to Moses at Mount Sinai. And you're just
yeah, but
if you're gonna ignore that, I'm not gonna be able to continue talking with you.
okay, but I could still chat with you another day, right?
Of course, 100%. You can even join
Okay.
the Discord. The Discord link is
Can
in
I
the
say
chat.
thank you?
Of
Can I
course,
say just thank you? Okay.
of course.
Well, thank you, because I know that you don't have a lot of times and stuff, but I would just like to say that I didn't come here to proselytize and preach. I don't know why you
That's
feel
fine.
that way, and I'm really sorry. It's the
No, no,
way
no,
that
no.
I
I was just
personally
saying
feel.
because I didn't want you to just start quoting the Bible at me. That's what I
But
meant.
you just tell me what I believe. What I believe is in the Bible.
You do believe in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you
So
corrected me that
that's
you
why.
don't believe that God gave the Jews the Torah. You believe the angels revealed it to Moses, and I corrected my statements. So
Okay. Thank you so much.
no problem. We can have a conversation another time for sure.
Okay. Bye bye.
Ah, very good guy. Very good guy. Just you gotta actually contend with what I'm talking about. Um, we don't have too much time. Mace, I can bring you on for like 7 minutes, and we can maybe talk more later. But I'm gonna bring you in now, Mace. I know you're enjoying this thing. Turn your camera, or you don't have to. What do you want to talk about, Mace?
Hello, sorry I can't do camera because I'm in my dressing gown.
That's fine.
I was enjoying that chat you were just having with that dude. I wish you could have gone on longer.
I know, but I unfortunately do have to go somewhere in like 6 minutes. So
Let's talk about what people deserve or don't deserve.
okay, what do you think people deserve?
I think that whatever comes about as the results of your own actions is what you deserve.
Okay, how do you determine what's the result of one's own actions opposed to the results of what society imbues onto you? And where is that demarcation point? At what point can you tell it's your own actions fault versus the system's fault or society at large or whatever it might be?
I don't know. How do you do it?
How do I do it? Well, I look at it this
Mm.
way. I don't think it's one or the other. I think they're always both at play. So when I think of what do people deserve, I don't think that it's because of their own actions or society's action. I think there are specific things that I think people are entitled to. For example, I believe kids, for example, are entitled to an education. And it has nothing to do whether it's from their own behavior or their parents' behavior, or it's just a thing that kids are entitled to do, and it should be our goals in a society to make sure people get that. I also believe that people are entitled and should have a roof over their head, and we should find ways to making sure that happens. Um, so I just don't think about the problem in the way that you do, and I think the way you think about the problem puts you in this like dichotomous space of this or that without considering a third option, which is neither.
Would you say if someone gambles all their money away, that they deserve to be poor?
I think if someone gambles all their money, they bear responsibility with why they're poor. But I also recognize that gambling is an addiction, and casinos and gambling institutions empower themselves by making people poor, and it's a part of the society, and we should do something to help people not get that weight and power. I don't think anyone deserves to become addicted to gambling or fall into that pitfall. No. In the same way that if we lived in a society where gambling was illegal, but there were tons of gambling rings in like dark city areas, there would be a law enforcement problem, and that person is a victim of gambling in that way. Are they responsible in a way for losing all their money? Yes. Should you and I now give them their money back? No. But do we have a group and social responsibility of making sure that we help individuals who are blighted by these institutions that we have created? Absolutely.
You said that we don't give them the money back, so they did deserve to lose it.
No, I did not say that. I did not say that they deserved to lose it. I said they lost it. I did not say they deserved to lose it.
But they don't deserve to get it back then.
I don't think that you and I are now entitled to give them back their money. But I do think that we are entitled to help them and have resources to help them stop that addiction. That we as a society need to outlaw these gambling institutions that are allowing people to gamble all their wealth. Right? That is in the same way that a homeless person doesn't deserve to be homeless, but they're also not entitled to live in my house. They don't deserve to be homeless, but they're also not entitled to automatically live in your house. But should we as a society create an infrastructure where we help homeless people who are suffering from usually mental illnesses develop the skills they need so they can live in a home and have an apartment? Absolutely. Yes, Mace?
I mean, I kind of agree with you, but not entirely. I just
What don't
agree-
you agree? What don't you agree with? Like, what did I say that was wrong?
I agree we should have a society where it's easy to work your way up through the ranks. If you do end up homeless, you can easily make it so that you're not homeless again. I don't think that means someone who sells their house doesn't deserve to be homeless. Like,
I mean,
the
word deserve here is interesting. The word deserve. What do you when you say deserves? You're almost like attributing some sort of like justiceness to it, or some type of like victimhoodness, where like they deserve this because if someone wants to be homeless, then they want to be homeless. Sure, they can be homeless, but I don't think anyone deserves to not have a house. It's like saying a murderer deserves to go to prison. Like you see how these statements are, the word deserve. What do you mean by deserve?
Do you think a murderer deserves to go to prison?
I think a murderer I think a murderer deserves some sort of social responsibility and accountability for what they have done. Yes, whether it's prison, depending on what we mean by prison, but sure, I think there's something. Deserve is hard here because it implies some sort of like cosmic right and wrongness, which I don't believe with to begin with, which is a problem for me. But with the way we talk about it, yeah, sure, a murderer deserves to go to a rehabilitation institution to try to make them be a part of society for whatever reasons made them be a murderer to begin with, which is not just personal action by itself, but also societal notions and influences. If they're sociopaths or whatever outliers, I don't know the question. We'll have to talk about each case independently. But
right,
yeah. Well, it's 10:20. I do have to run. I'm sorry, Mace, but we can talk about this another time if you want. Always appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
By the way, guys, Mace, for someone who was here before, he said, "Oh, don't you have to agree with Pangburn?" Mace also has a YouTube channel with the Pangburn Universe, and he has great content. So you should also follow him, look him up. He has a great show. So thank you, Mace. Well, everyone, it is unfortunately the end of the show. I had a great time streaming on Penguin's main channel. It was really really fun. Thank all of you guys for coming into the chat. Of course, like, subscribe, smash the follow, smash the bell, yada yada yada. You guys know the drill. Follow the links if you want to donate. That helps out so much for all of us. Even $1, like buy me a cup of coffee or whatever. I'll see who you are. You can come onto the show. Um, go onto the Discord. The Discord is where you can actually talk to me and talk to all the personalities who show up on these live streams daily. Let me post the invite link again. So in the chat right here, I just posted it. Come join the Discord. That's going to be the best place for you to keep up with what we're doing. See if there are events in your areas that Pangburn is putting on. And as how I end my show, I always do, is with a little tagline that goes, "Stay thinking." Good night, everyone. I'll see you again on Tuesday, and I'll see you on Sunday, and I'll be posting videos throughout the week.